silence. Since I was 6, I've lived in this village. The farmhouse and the fields were inherited by my father. The house is large, and after the renovations, even larger. It's oddly built in the shape of a ring. The courtyard at its center once held animals. Later, a stable was built a few meters away, on what used to be a cornfield. The house rests at the bottom of the village. A road passes below it, leading to the farmlands. My neighbors, most of them elderly, still walk that path at dawn, tending their crops until sunset. It's a quiet, peaceful place, far from the pollution and noise of the city. From the balcony facing the courtyard, you can reach the bathroom, the wide living room, a newly built kitchen, and at the far end, a small office that also serves as a guest room. It was in that little office, where I stayed up late for college exams, that everything began. Night 1. That evening, concentration slipped away from me like water through my hands. The lamp cast long shadows against the walls. My textbooks lay open, unread. The computer hummed quietly, glowing with temptation. A game waiting to be launched. I resisted, told myself to focus. But the silence of the house made every small sound impossible to ignore. Soft music played in the background, barely louder than a whisper. And then, in the pause between songs, I heard it. At first, I thought it was nothing, a dog chasing a cat, the usual noise of the village. But the sound returned, and it wasn't barking. It wasn't a fox. It was faint, broken, distant, like the cry of a baby carried on the night air. I froze, pen in hand. My first thought was to dismiss it, a trick of a restless mind. But when it came again, sharper this time, unease gripped me. I turned down the music, sat in silence, listening. The sound drifted up from the courtyard below. Compelled, I stepped onto the balcony. The night pressed close, heavy and unmoving. I switched on the lights. They flickered, struggling, as if the house itself resisted revealing what lingered beyond its walls. My footsteps echoed softly as I crossed the floor. The oven's digital clock glowed stubbornly. 12 o'clock. Frozen since the last storm. A meaningless detail, yet it unsettled me. I pushed onward, switching on more lights. Each bulb flickered reluctantly, as if darkness had to be torn away, piece by piece. I opened the back door. Outside, the air smelled of damp earth. The moon hid behind restless clouds. My dog padded toward me from the shadows, tail wagging faintly, but ears pressed back. He circled me once, then sat, eyes fixed, not on me, but on the fields beyond. "Do you hear it too?" I whispered. And then it came again, fainter now, from somewhere deep in the fields. My chest tightened. I grabbed a flashlight. Its beam cut through the night. The tall grass swayed, though the air was still. "Hello?" I called out softly. No answer, only the restless cluck of hens in their coop. And then 2 points of light, shining back at me from the ground ahead. My heart leapt. The flashlight trembled in my grip. The points blinked once, and I realized they were only my dog's eyes. Reflecting the beam, I exhaled, shaky with relief, closed the door firmly behind me, told myself it was nothing. But that night, I didn't return to my books. Instead, I sat in silence, every creak of the house reminding me the night was not empty. The next morning, sunlight filled the kitchen, but comfort refused to come with it. Over breakfast, my mother mentioned the poultry. Some of the chickens hadn't answered the dawn. The coop was littered with feathers, as though a storm had swept through in the night. We told ourselves it was a fox, a predator of flesh and blood, something simple, something natural. But deep down, I knew the cry I'd heard was not from any fox. And I knew nightfall would not be so kind again. Night 2, I thought being prepared would help. The day passed in chores and conversation, but beneath it all, tension lingered. By nightfall, I kept glancing at the clock, waiting. Around 1:30 in the morning, it came again. Not a cry this time, not a voice, but a low disturbance, as though the night itself stirred uneasily near the stables. I grabbed a metal pipe I had left by the door, called for the dog. He padded close, loyal but nervous, ears twitching, body tense. We crossed the courtyard together. The air was colder there, heavier somehow, as if the world beyond the house existed under a different weight. The dog stopped halfway, pulled back with a sharp whine. He would not go further. Ahead, the horse shifted restlessly. Its hooves struck the ground in uneven rhythm, echoing like a drumbeat. "Stay," I whispered to the dog, the command unnecessary. His refusal was already absolute. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, stepped inside alone. The corridor stretched narrow and silent. Each step pressed into the boards like an intrusion. The beam of light carved fragile fragments into the dark. The silence wasn't normal. It was too perfect, as though the air itself was holding its breath. And then it broke. A sudden bang. Sharp, hollow. I swung the light toward the sound. The sheep's pen door had swung partly open. I approached, pulse racing. When the beam fell inside, my breath faltered. Empty. No rustling, no warmth, just emptiness. The straw was pressed down in places, as if bodies had lain there. But now, nothing. The silence pressed tighter, heavy enough to choke. Then came another sound. Not inside, outside, just beyond the stable wall. Rustling, dragging footsteps through the grass. I backed into a corner, fumbling for my phone. Whispered to my father, begged him to come. Minutes felt like hours, until finally I saw his flashlight cutting through the fields. The dog at his side. Relief washed over me, but fear clung still, refusing to let go. Together we searched the pens. My father's face hardened, silent, more unsettling than words. At last, he shook his head. "This wasn't a fox," he muttered. "Let's go. We'll think more clearly in the daylight." We walked back in silence. Each step felt watched, each shadow alive. Behind us, the stable loomed like a shape that did not belong. Not wood, not stone, but something older, something that had borrowed that form for the night. Night 3. That night, I avoided the office. Too many windows, too close to the courtyard. I stayed in my bedroom instead. For a while, the night seemed ordinary. I read, I scribbled notes. I tried to concentrate, but every creak of wood, every draft of air felt like an intrusion. And then it came. The horse screamed. Not a neigh, not panic. A raw, sharp sound filled with something deeper, terror, and then silence. Not fading silence, cut silence, as if the sound had been swallowed whole. I heard my father's footsteps, urgent, his voice low, calling the police again. Car headlights cut the dark. The inspector arrived. Together, they walked toward the stables, their flashlights bobbing like fragile stars. I stayed at the window, my chest tight, breath shallow. When they returned, my father's face was pale, eyes dark and deep, as if he had seen something he could not explain. "This time," he whispered, "this time it left something behind." The inspector rubbed his forehead. "It's not natural. I've seen strange things. But this," he trailed off, "may be some kind of ritual. People messing with things they shouldn't." But even he didn't believe his own words. The next morning, investigators came again. I watched from a distance, pretended not to look. Inside the stable, there was no destruction, only stillness, as though the place had been drained, emptied of its purpose. Outside, one of the forensic men crouched, studied the dirt. "Tracks," he said. "Small ones near the poultry, larger ones by the sheep pen, and near the stable, much larger, larger than anything I had ever seen." The prints seemed to grow, step by step, as if whatever it was becoming more. That afternoon, my father sat at the table, hands clasped, head low. "We've lost everything," he said quietly. "The animals were our livelihood. Without them," his voice broke, "I need to buy a weapon. I won't let it come this close again." I said nothing. What could I say? A gun might stop a fox, or even a wolf, but against something that left silence where life should be, I doubted any weapon would matter. Night 4. By evening, I couldn't bear the house anymore. Every shadow seemed to move. Every floorboard whispered beneath my steps. I told my family I had an opportunity in the city, anything to escape the silence. But the city offered no comfort. I wandered streets lit by neon, drank in dim alleys, tried to forget. Yet even in the noise of the city, I felt it, the echo of the farm's night, pressing close, patient, waiting. By sunrise, I drove back home. The sky painted gold, relief mixed with dread. I parked by the gate, tried to look casual, tried to pretend the night had not left its mark. And then I saw them, footprints, large, unlike any creature I had ever seen, crossing the courtyard, leading to the balcony, to the living room door, which now stood open. My hands shook as I dialed the police, whispered into the phone, unable to form clear answers. The courtyard was silent, too silent. The prints did not vanish. They remained, heavy, deliberate, as if whatever had passed that night had paused to consider me before moving into the house. I stood frozen outside, unable to enter. My eyes traced the trail leading through the living room door. Something had come in, and something was still inside. Though the dawn was breaking, the house felt no lighter, Its walls now held the memory of the night, the weight of absence, and the hush of a presence that was patient, watching, waiting. I did not sleep that morning. I could not. Every creak, every shadow, every whisper of wind reminded me that whatever had entered would return, and in that certainty, I understood. The house, once a sanctuary of family and comfort, had become something else, a place of quiet dread, where silence itself pulsed with life.